Back with another review, and today talking about reviewing 2010, the year we made contact, which is the follow-up to 2001. And, now seeing the film, I want to pick up the Blu-ray because I quite enjoyed this film. And I'll be honest, I actually preferred this a little bit more. I thought the cast was great. I mean, you have Roy Scheider in the film, John Lithgow, Bob Balaban, Helen Mirren. You have a small part by Dana Elcar. And I felt there was a little bit more meat on the bone. Now, that's not a knock against 2001, but with this film, I liked how they explained stuff in regards, like, with the events of the first movie and what transpired and, what happened to HAL 9000. And they explain a little bit more with this film. But yeah, like I said, I quite enjoyed this film. I thought it's a great sci-fi adventure with a great cast and so forth. But the plot here, again, this is 9 years after the first movie, the events of what happened, and there's international tension between the United States and Russia. The film kicks off with the scene between Dana Elcar and Roy Scheider, two great actors that are no longer with us. Roy Scheider, I'm a big fan of, from Jaws. And there's some other stuff out there that Roy Scheider is in that I haven't seen yet, that I would like to check out. I know he was in the series Sequest, but, love him in Jaws and Jaws 2. And here he plays the Haywood Floyd character, which in 2001, he's played by, I think, William Sylvester. So they have a different actor. They recast that character here. Again, taking place 9 years later after the events of the first film. And, Dana Elcar is talking to Roy Scheider. And Dana Elcar, funny enough, doing the MacGyver reviews. It's cool to see Dana Elcar in this film, even for a little bit. But, a great actor. And he's talking to Roy Scheider about the events from 9 years prior, and, it was a failed mission that it kind of falls on Roy Scheider's character. So Dana Elcar's like, I think we found the monolith, and, from here we can, track it down and find out more information about what happened to the Discovery, what happened to the previous crew. And again, like I said, you have the tension going on between the United States and Russia, but they form these groups to work together to go out into outer space and to Jupiter, where again they're trying to find the monolith and, find out what happened to the Discovery. And in this group of the Americans, you have John Lithgow, you have Bob Balaban, who I think his character created HAL 9000. And there's some fun stuff, like some cool scenes that you would see later between Bob Balaban and HAL 9000. And again, you have Helen Mirren, who is a Russian in this film. Elya Baskin, I think that's how you pronounce his name. Good actor. He's the guy, the landlord in Spider-Man 2 and 3. Where's my rent? That guy. Always asking for rent. But, this character actor you've seen before, and sometimes he would play like a supporting villain in an action film, but a good actor. And he's part of the Russians. And again, you have the Americans and the Russians working together to find out what happened to the Discovery. And from there, it's an adventure, a sci-fi adventure. And that's the plot pretty much. But yeah, like I said, I quite enjoyed this film, and I feel it's underrated because not a lot of people talk about this film, and I don't know why. Directed by Peter Hyams. Peter Hyams, who would go on to direct, Timecop. Well, before this, prior to this film, he directed Outland with Sean Connery, which is a great sci-fi movie where Sean Connery is like a miner in outer space. And Yeah, that's a film that I want to check out again. Watching this again, like watching this, I'm like, I want to watch Outland again. That's such a great movie. But Peter Hyams directed that, like maybe back in 1981. So 3 years before this film, he directed Outland again, which is a great outer space film, great sci-fi movie with Sean Connery. He would go on to direct Timecop with Van Damme. He worked with Van Damme a couple of times. Did he direct Sudden Death? I want to check this out now. Just to make sure, just to get it right. I know he would direct End of Days with Arnold. Yeah, he also directed The Relic. He also directed The Musketeer. Let's see. Okay, films he directed before this. He directed Outland, The Star Chamber. Of course, directed this film. Running Scared. Narrow Margin, that's another great one that not many people talk about. Stay Tuned. That's a great comedy with John Ritter. Again, yeah, Time Cop, Sudden Death, End of Days, and yeah, the last thing he directed was Enemies Closer with Van Damme, where Van Damme was a villain. But I'm a big fan of Peter Hyams, and whether if it's Outland or Time Cop, Sudden Death, Stay Tuned is a great comedy, underrated film. I really enjoyed that. End of Days with Arnold is a great movie. That's another underrated film. Peter Hyams has directed a lot of great movies. And this is a great one. This is a film that, again, definitely falls in the underrated category because I don't see a whole lot of people talk about this film now. Not a lot of people, when you think back on 80s sci-fi, people may bring up The Last Starfighter, or even people don't talk about Outland. Thinking about it, not a lot of people talk about Outland or this film, but I know more people talk about The Last Starfighter or Blade Runner or films of that sort. Not a lot of people talk about this film or talk about Outland. But getting back to the film, what I enjoyed with this, when it comes to this film, is again the cast. Roy Scheider, John Lithgow, Bob Balaban, Helen Mirren, and I believe, was this her first movie? I thought I saw that somewhere. Maybe I could be wrong with that. I thought maybe this was Helen Mirren's first movie. Now I want to check this out and get that right. Let's see here. I mean, probably not, but yeah, she was an Excalibur, so yeah, you can never mind on that. But yeah, she was an Excalibur, and of course, at this point, she's a big time actress. But yeah, Helen Mirren's in the film. And it's such a great cast, such a great ensemble here. And I thought they all worked well together. And I thought Roy Scheider was a great lead. Dan Elcar, again, you only see him for a little bit here in the beginning, and that's kind of it. And he has a Russian accent, which is, it's kind of weird for me because, being a big fan of the MacGyver series, he's one of the main characters, American. So it's kind of weird for me to see him with a Russian accent, but it was cool to see Dan Elcar in the beginning. And I thought him and Roy Scheider had some cool scenes in the beginning. I wish that he was in the film a little bit more, but it's still a great cast. I love the way outer space looks. I thought it was well shot. Peter Hyams did a great job. Really pulling off the shots, and a lot of cool sequences. I mean, you got the scene where they're aero braking, they're slingshotting around, was it Jupiter or something? But I really enjoyed that scene. I thought you could definitely put yourself in that scene, and where Roy Scheider, he's in this like little closed off kind of a cubby, or not a cubby, but like a little pod, and this woman is wants to get in the pod with Scheider, and they're kind of hanging on to each other. And I thought that was a well shot scene with the arrow breaking. And again, they go on more into the events of the first movie and finding the discovery, which I thought was cool. It's picking right up, 9 years later. And the main character of Dave, which I didn't mention in my review of the first movie, but he disappears into the monolith, and they don't know what happened. It's still a mystery. It's still a question mark, an enigma, this monolith, because they have a track on it, but there's a couple of scenes where they go into the discovery, like you have John Lithgow and the Elya Baskin character. They're looking around in the discovery, and they want to reactivate HAL 9000 to figure out what happened to the crew, what happened to the mission from before. So when they get things back working, you have some scenes later on between Balaban and HAL 9000, and a couple of intense moments. I mean, I don't want to get too much into the film as far as like in depth, but I thought, again, I like the idea of the discovery that as they go in, it's kind of a creepy scene because, again, there's nobody there. It's very dark. I don't know. I just enjoyed the scenes where John Lithgow and Elya Baskin, first go into the discovery, and it's been floating out here in space for almost a decade. And they go inside, and it's dark, and it's kind of creepy a little bit. But yeah, again, I mean, just a lot of great sequences and suspense. I mean, there's not a lot of, like, let's say, big action moments, but I was really invested in the sci-fi aspect of this movie and the journey, the adventure, the rapport between characters, and Roy Scheider, again, being the lead and commanding this crew and the Russians. I mean, I thought it was done well, and Peter Hyams again did a great job directing, and yeah, I love the way, again, outer space looked, and the arrow breaking scene, and then when it comes to the monolith, I love, and again, there's more that I can mention, like as far as what happens in the end, because there's this one scene where all these monoliths come out, and Jupiter is being consumed, and again, I like that it didn't really, how can I put it? It had a good ending to it, where they discover a little bit more about the monolith, but again, like, it's like when I mentioned my review, like when I was talking about the first movie, like nowadays everything is just too over-explained and overdone. But I thought it did a great job here of handling, again, the monolith, and but it's a film that I want people to check out. I don't want to give too much away, but looking back on this film overall, and I really enjoyed this film. Yeah, 2010, the year we made contact. I feel it's an underrated, installment, film follow-up to 2001. I liked how, again, it explains a little bit more. It goes into more what happened with the mission, and then also, too, you have the main character. I almost forgot to mention the Dave character, once again played by Keir Dullea. He comes back in here. He comes back as, I don't know if you would say a ghost, but, at the end of the first movie, he gets not consumed, but, the monolith takes Dave, and his character comes back here where he's telling Roy Scheider, hey, you got 2 days to get out of here. Something's about to happen. So Keir Dullea comes back as the character Dave, and I really enjoy this one scene where he's talking to Roy Scheider, and it bounces back and forth to where you see him in the suit, and then you see his older version, and then you see a glimpse of the Star Child. I thought that was well done. And, I didn't mind the recasting of the Haywood Floyd character, because Roy Scheider is a great actor. I thought he pulled it off well, playing, again, the leader, where in the first movie, I think it's William Sylvester, but here you have Roy Scheider, which I actually prefer him as an actor. But still, getting back to what I was talking about, it was cool to see the Dave character back, and I love the little scene there between him and Roy Scheider. I thought it was great editing, going back and forth and, warning Roy Scheider's character. So it was cool to see him back. And, the same voice of HAL 9000, Douglas Rain, I thought did a great job once again. And yeah, just a great cast. I thought the pacing was fine. 2010, the year we made contact. It's a great sci-fi picture, sequel to a classic. And again, while I respect the first film more, and it's an achievement, I enjoyed this film more because, again, I really enjoyed the cast here. I felt there was more to this film, that I love the characters. I love Peter Hyams' direction. Again, the film explaining more about the previous film, the mission that went wrong. So I thought there was a lot of great stuff here. And like I said, definitely an underrated film. Not a lot of people, I don't see a whole lot of people talk about this film now, but definitely deserves a little bit more spotlight. And I definitely want to pick up the film on Blu-ray. It's funny because I went to a Best Buy maybe last year, and I had the film in my hands for a few bucks, and I don't know why I didn't buy it. So now I have to buy it. But yeah, 2010, great follow-up to a classic. And again, while I give praise to the first film, I felt this was more of my flavor. This was more going on, more to it, more meat to the bone, if you will. But thank you for watching my review of 2010. Definitely check it out, and I do recommend it. But thank you for watching, and we'll see you later.